The call came just after midnight. 34-year-old Ethan Caldwell had been found dead in his apartment, sprawled across the polished wooden floor of his downtown condo. The paramedics arrived quickly, but it was already too late. His skin was pale and his pulse was gone. To the first responders, nothing about the scene seemed unusual. There was no sign of struggle, no broken furniture, and no forced entry. Ethan was a successful financial consultant, known among colleagues as disciplined, quiet, and healthy. When the body was transported to the county morgue, the case looked routine. By morning, the official examination began. Dr. Martin Hargrove, the county coroner with nearly 25 years of experience, performed the autopsy himself. The findings appeared straightforward: mild cardiac enlargement and traces of alcohol in the bloodstream. After reviewing the medical history Ethan's family provided, long stressful work hours and occasional chest discomfort, Dr. Hargrove concluded the cause of death was sudden cardiac arrest. The report was signed, and the case was officially closed. Within days, the death certificate was issued and Ethan's family began preparing for the funeral. Friends gathered to mourn. Colleagues spoke about his ambition and discipline, and the tragedy seemed destined to become just another unexplained medical death. Everyone accepted the explanation, everyone except Ethan's sister. Clara Caldwell had always been extremely close to her brother. As she stood beside his coffin during the visitation, a quiet unease gnawed at her mind. Ethan had always been meticulous about his health. He exercised regularly, rarely drank alcohol, and constantly monitored his diet. What troubled Clara even more was the last phone call she had received from him just hours before he died. His voice had sounded tense and unsettled. "Clara," he had said, "if anything happens to me, there's something you need to." The line had suddenly gone silent. She never heard the rest of the sentence. At first, she tried to convince herself that grief was distorting her memory. But the more she replayed the conversation in her mind, the more the official explanation stopped making sense. Ethan had sounded afraid, not sick, and that unfinished warning would not leave her thoughts. Determined to find answers, Clara made a decision that shocked the entire family. She hired an independent forensic pathologist and requested a second autopsy. The request angered some relatives and puzzled many of Ethan's colleagues, who believed the family should simply allow him to rest in peace. Even the funeral director hesitated as he explained the complicated legal paperwork required to exhume the body. But Clara refused to back down. 2 weeks later, inside a private forensic laboratory miles away from the county morgue, Dr. Lena Morales prepared to conduct the second examination. Dr. Morales had built a reputation for carefully reviewing questionable death cases, situations where the original findings seemed routine, but subtle details suggested otherwise. She began by studying the original autopsy report. The document stated cardiac arrest as the cause of death, with alcohol detected in Ethan's bloodstream. At first glance, the report appeared professional and thorough. But as Dr. Morales examined preserved tissue samples and conducted a detailed internal review, she noticed something that immediately raised concern. Ethan's heart showed no structural damage capable of causing sudden failure. His arteries were clear, his heart muscle appeared healthy, and there was no evidence of a fatal cardiac event. Dr. Morales paused, staring at the examination results. If his heart had not failed naturally, something else must have stopped it. She ordered a more advanced toxicology analysis, expanding the chemical screening beyond what the original examination had performed. Hours later, the lab equipment completed its testing. The digital screen displayed the presence of a rare compound that immediately caught her attention: tetrodotoxin. It is a powerful neurotoxin most commonly associated with certain species of pufferfish. In extremely small doses, the toxin can paralyze the body within minutes while leaving very little evidence in standard toxicology tests. Dr. Morales slowly leaned back in her chair, realizing the gravity of the discovery. Ethan Caldwell had not died from natural causes. He had been poisoned. The revelation immediately triggered legal action. The county medical examiner's office was notified, and the police department reopened the case as a possible homicide investigation. Detective Aaron Blake was assigned to review the file and re-examine every detail of Ethan's final hours. When Blake reviewed the crime scene photographs, the apartment still appeared calm and orderly. But the toxicology results changed everything. The absence of forced entry suggested Ethan had willingly allowed someone inside his home. The poison indicated careful planning and a deliberate method of killing. Detective Blake began reconstructing the final night of Ethan's life. Security camera footage from the condo building soon revealed an important detail. Late that evening, a woman had entered the building and visited Ethan's apartment. She arrived at 9:14 p.m. and left approximately 40 minutes later. Her identity was quickly confirmed. The visitor was Natalie Pierce, Ethan's business partner. When detectives questioned Natalie, she appeared calm and cooperative. She explained that she had visited Ethan to discuss a financial project their firm was currently developing. According to her statement, they shared a glass of wine while talking about work before she left when Ethan said he was feeling tired. At first, the explanation sounded harmless. But investigators soon uncovered financial records that changed the direction of the investigation completely. Hidden within company documents were suspicious transfers involving millions of dollars quietly moved into offshore accounts. Those accounts belonged to Natalie. Even more disturbing, detectives discovered an email Ethan had drafted shortly before his death. In the message, he warned senior executives that he had uncovered serious financial irregularities and planned to report them to federal investigators the following morning. Detective Blake looked again at the timeline. Natalie had visited Ethan the night before he intended to expose the fraud. Only hours later, Ethan was dead. When investigators confronted Natalie with the financial evidence, her calm demeanor began to crumble. However, she continued denying any involvement in poisoning him. "There's no proof," she insisted. For a moment, her statement was almost true. Then Dr. Morales revealed one final detail discovered during the second autopsy. On Ethan's finger was a tiny puncture mark, so small it had been mistaken during the original examination for a minor scratch. But the presence of tetrodotoxin suggested a very different explanation. Detectives obtained a search warrant for Natalie's home. During the search, they discovered a small medical injector device hidden inside a kitchen drawer along with a sealed vial containing laboratory-grade toxin. The substance inside the vial matched the chemical compound found in Ethan's bloodstream. The evidence was overwhelming. Investigators concluded that Natalie had injected the toxin into Ethan's finger while handing him a wine glass, disguising the puncture as a minor accident. The poison quickly paralyzed his nervous system, causing his heart to stop minutes later. To anyone witnessing the event, it would have appeared like a sudden medical emergency. For a short time, the plan had worked perfectly. The coroner signed off on the report, the death certificate was issued, and the murder nearly disappeared under the label of natural causes. But Clara Caldwell's refusal to accept the explanation changed everything.